good.
Off mute,
Yep.
screen stuff on. Okay. It is 7 o'clock on Tuesday, March 24th. I will call the select board meeting to order. We're being broadcast on RCTV as well as Zoom. And the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I will go over the overview of the meeting. 7:05 public comment, 7:20 discuss and vote on appointment of Jane Wellman as town manager, 7:30 discuss and vote to create a town manager search committee and or hire an executive search firm, 7:40 executive session purpose 2 to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with Jane Wellman for the position of town manager, a non-union position. 7:50 executive session purpose 7, approve and review for release of minutes February 24th, 2026 and March 3rd, 2026 executive session meeting minutes. And then back at 8 o'clock, town manager report, 8:05 community spotlight, 8:10 discuss and vote on police presence at select board meetings, 8:25 presentation and discussion on Pleasant Street Center status and future planning, 8:55 a presentation by RECAL Operations Subcommittee, 9:25 first reading of discussion on the valet parking regulations, 9:40 vote to reappoint the town accountant, 9:45 discuss 2025-26 select board accomplishments, 10 o'clock liaison reports, 10:05 future agendas, and 10:10 3 sets of minutes. And briefly before I start, I just wanted to address an issue from the last meeting that we had and offer my sincere apology to my fellow board members, especially Karen Herrick. During that discussion of the town manager contract agenda item, I noticed an email from a resident that contained language very similar to what we were about to discuss, information that should not have been made public. Based on the absence of any related details in the meeting packet, I incorrectly accused someone of leaking our confidential discussions. So upon further review, I now realized that there was a motion in the materials that referenced aspects of our potential discussion, which I had overlooked. And additionally, upon rewatching that portion of the meeting, I did see that I did not open the floor for public comment on that item as I did for others. While I stand by my comments regarding a previous similar incident, that does not justify my error here. I was wrong in this case, and for that I apologize unreservedly. And I also mentioned that I'd address this at the next select board meeting, which is now. So once again, I apologize to my fellow board members and especially Karen and the resident in this situation. And I think we can all take a page out of this and just try to move forward. And I will open it up to public comment. Nancy. 2 minutes, name and address, please.
Nancy Dr. Pearl Street, Precinct 1 meeting member, and I'm very glad I'm following your comment, Chris. I'm here not to talk about your agenda item about your police presence. I'm here to actually address what the select board plans to do to protect us, the public, from the select board. You have not wanted to adopt a code of conduct and enforce it in this board. You've not wanted to openly discuss adopting Robert's Rules of Orders. All of these things I have brought up because of behavior of the select board members. The personal attacks that have occurred against residents here, name calling even not only citizens, but fellow select board members. I'm concerned that there isn't anything in place to protect citizens from members of the select board, and I would like this to be addressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Anybody else in the room? Angela? 2 minutes, name and address.
Angela Binda, Orchard Park Drive.
At a recent select board meeting on discussion of Article 14, funding for unified sports, Mr. Haley said that no one at all had suggested an alternative funding source. I countered that, yes, people have been suggesting other funding mechanisms, including making unified sports a community priority. Well, at the last FinCom meeting, FinCom voted 4-4 on Article 14, a very unusual split. They also voted to make unified sports a community priority, which, according to Ms. Engstrom, would provide funding not just for the next fiscal year, because there had been nothing in the budget in the school or town, but put it into the budget. So a community priority will put it into the budget going forward, which could be increased in years to come as the program expands. An important program like this deserves reliable funding. I want to thank the FinCom for doing this, and I'll be supporting this at town meeting. I will be supporting making unified sports a community priority because it is important. And it will be in addition to the budget that town meeting votes for. I hope town meeting supports this, and I would like to see unified sports properly funded. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else in the room? Tony? Two minutes, name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tony DeRezzo, 130 John Street. I'm here today just to ask the board that as they are discussing whether to keep a police officer at the meeting today or going in the future, that the board please try to refrain from discussing personalities or individuals. Everybody has a right to feel how they feel. I think the questions here are simply, do you feel safe? And does staff feel safe? And that's what you should be focusing on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Anyone online? Maddie? Didn't log in.
I don't see any hands raised.
I will give it 5 seconds and then we will move on.
Still no hands.
All righty. So we will move on. 7:20, discuss and vote on appointment of Jane Wellman as town manager. So I will open up to the board for discussion. Melissa.
I don't have any further discussion beyond what I said last night, but for me, this is a no-brainer, and I feel like it is.
Okay.
And I would just like to move forward. Thank you.
Anybody else? Karen Rose Gillis.
I agree with Melissa. I don't really have that much to say, but I wanted to say thank you to Jane for all your comments last night. You did answer a lot of my questions that I was not able to ask in your answers. I thought they were great, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
Anyone else? Carla.
Yeah, I want to echo my colleagues, and the interview last night went very well. A lot of great questions, a lot of great answers, and I feel very comfortable moving forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? So for me, same thing as last night. I said everything I pretty much already had to say and then some. But no, I'm looking forward to voting tonight and where this is going to end up taking us in the future. I am very hopeful as well. So thank you, Jane, for participating and, sticking around, I guess, So thanks.
Thank
Did you have any comments before we?
Just briefly, just to thank the board for their excellent questions yesterday, and I think the public benefited from the conversation. I think it was a good, well-spent 90 minutes, and I appreciated all of your questions and in the direction that we went. We've had a lot of feedback today that's been great, and I'm grateful for the opportunity before you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. All right, I'll open up to the public before we vote. Anybody in the room? Anyone online, Maddie?
Nobody online.
All right, Karen Rose Gillis, do we have a motion?
Move to appoint Jane Wellman to the position of town manager, subject to successful contract negotiations.
Second.
Seconded by Melissa. Any discussion? And I vaguely think this is a roll call vote for some reason, so we will do it anyway. Karen Rose Gillis.
Yes.
Karen Herrick.
Yes.
Melissa Murphy.
Yes.
Carlo Bacci.
Yes.
And Chris Haley, yes. We are 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to all the work we're going to be doing together.
As am I.
It's going to be a good time.
Thank you, Jane. I really appreciate it. And, you know, there's always more I want to say, but I'll just keep it short at that. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, which we don't have to take up now because that was regarding a potential search committee or hire an executive firm. So we don't need that either. So the next item would be for executive session purpose 2. Karen Rose Gillis, do you have a motion?
Move to enter into executive session under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, for the purposes of conducting a strategy sessions in preparation for contract negotiations with Jane Wellman for the position of town manager, a non-union position, and under Section 21A7 to comply with Section 22 of the Open Meeting Law for the purpose of reviewing and approving for release the minutes of the February 24th and March 3rd, 2026 executive session minutes, and to invite town council into the meeting and to adjourn from executive session and to return to open session to continue on with the meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Carlo. Any discussion? This is a roll call vote. Karen Rose Gillis.
Yes?
Karen Herrick.
Yes.
Melissa Murphy.
Yes.
Carlo Bacci.
Yes.
And Chris Haley, yes. We are adjourned to executive session.
I'm grand. Thank you, sir.
Perfect. All right, I will call the select board back to order at 8:16. And the next item on the agenda is the town manager report at 8 o'clock. Take it away, Jane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly. First, we're launching our new budget video starting this week. The first one is up. Is it on social media yet? It's on social media, and it's on the website. So we have 4 short videos that break down the FY27 budget to help residents better understand the pressures that our budget, like many others across the Commonwealth, are facing. We look forward to hearing feedback on these videos from anybody. And just to let folks know, we partnered with Cartoon EDU, with whom we worked last year on videos for the Killam School and the RECAL building project videos. And these were done at no charge to the town. Along these lines, I had the privilege of moderating a panel for the MMA titled Numbers to Narratives with Dave Cartoonen of Cartoon EDU and Doug Lyons, Wakefield Superintendent of Schools. That video is available on the MMA website. We talked about how to visually represent, tell a narrative about what's going on with your budget. I think the videos that we are releasing will do that. It just kind of provides some basic insight into where does your money come from and where does it go? And we do that in the context of $1. So how much of $1 goes to each thing? And some other pieces. I want to thank, I said it earlier, but I want to reiterate this, that I want to thank the select board for the interview yesterday. I think the public benefited from that conversation, and I'm grateful to move forward with you following your vote earlier this evening. We're going to do great things together here in Reading. I also want to correct an erroneous comment I made yesterday. While Winchester did narrowly defeat an $11.5 million override at its election on Saturday, Arlington will be holding their override vote this coming Saturday. Malden is also coming up for an override vote on Tuesday, March 31st. So I regret the error. I was thinking 2 had failed, and it was 2 were coming. So to our friends in Arlington, mea culpa. I want to let the select board know that we received a gift this week of $1,000 to the fire department for the purpose of purchasing smoke detectors for elders in need. We have a program with the fire department that allows them to replace old detectors with modern smoke and carbon monoxide detectors with 10-year batteries in them, so they don't have to worry about replacing them. We thank Carl McFadden for his generous gift. Finally, the town clerk asked me to announce that there is an informational letter in the mailing that went out about the charter. And it looks like this informational letter. Everybody got it at home. And there's this little piece here that talks about what the question will look like. But this is just a letter. It does not need to be filled out and sent back to town. We've been getting a number of them back. Like, people think that they need to return it. So this is not voting. You can keep the letter for informational purposes. They are not official ballots. The election is April 7th. Early voting starts this Saturday, and ballots for those wishing to vote by mail have already been mailed out. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Jane. All right, so we'll move on to community spotlight, unless someone had any questions on that. No?
Okay.
All right.
So I'd like to first offer congratulations to Professor's Market and Frank Pellegrini and his team on 10 years in Reading. Professor's Market opened in March 2016 at 505 Main Street, and they've become a mainstay in our community. And we've been fortunate to use ARPA funds to procure lunches for our Pleasant Street Center from Professor's Market, which has been a great relationship. I'd also like to just take a moment to recognize that we have here in our audience this evening a member of the family that owns Dandelions visiting us tonight. They are in their 25th year. So welcome being here tonight. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I know your mom. Joe. So thanks for being with us. And then for the employee spotlight, I just want to take a moment to wish 2 members of our fire department who are retiring this month best wishes. Lieutenant Dave Robideau had 31 years with Reading, and firefighter Thomas McCarthy, 22 years with the town. We thank them for their tremendous service to the community, their selfless public service. As public servants, it's hard work what they've done. They've saved lives, and they've changed the trajectories of so many lives in our community, so we thank them for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks. Joe, did you want to say anything, or you're all good?
Might as well.
Okay. Just 2 minutes, name and address up there, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Maselli, not a resident, but 25 North Street, Wilmington. Just want to thank, on behalf of our family, of our staff, just thank you to the Reading community. I mean, this community has given us so much kindness and just support over the years. We really love getting to know our customers and just building relationships with everyone. So just want to thank the community for all the support. We love doing the fundraisers, the sponsorships, and everything. So just want to thank for very successful 25 years, and we hope to have another successful 25 more. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
You're always doing fundraisers, so I appreciate you taking and giving back to people. So, all righty, we will move on to,
Can I add to that real quick?
yes. Yeah.
So Lobster Claw underwent a major renovation, and as far as I can tell, they've reopened. So for everybody out there who is not getting their fried clams and seafood, I think Lobster Claw is back open, and I don't know how long they've been around, but I know it's a long time.
We can find out.
So is Bangkok Spice as well.
Yes,
That's right, Bangkok Spice reopened.
Yes, sorry.
That's great. And I have had lunch there since they opened. It was delicious.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, moving on, 8:10, discuss and vote on police presence at select board meetings, page 5 in the packet. Karen, you proposed this, and Melissa wanted it as well, so if you had something to start us off.
Sure. Thank you for gathering this information from the Deputy Chief Amendola. We've had 2 more meetings since these numbers, so we're approaching $3,000. I think this is an unnecessary expense, given the financial dire straits we find ourselves in. I do not feel unsafe. I feel like our officers could be with their families, but in my 6 years, this has never been necessary. I don't think it's necessary now. So I would like us to discontinue this because the Trails Committee, their entire budget has been $2,500, and we've just spent it on overtime for babysitting for the select board. And I think maybe we've learned our lesson and we don't need it anymore, hopefully.
Can you share why we needed it?
No, it wasn't my decision. I was told this is what we were doing, so no, I can't.
Or why we needed the police to come?
No, I can't. I don't understand why we needed it. Because a lot of things have happened in 6 years, and this was never necessary, and I wasn't in part of the decision.
Melissa, I think Melissa was going to answer.
Yeah,
it
sorry.
anyway.
I didn't phrase my question
Or
properly.
not.
I did support this being on the agenda as well, because I feel like the reason that we had to ask for the police presence is because we had 2 residents that came to a meeting and verbally accosted town staff and the select board. And in no world should that be accepted as okay behavior. So until the climate and the emotions of residents maybe come down, or we learn our lesson, little less than $3,000, or it could go to $20,000, and I'm still gonna support that until it comes to a point that everyone should feel safe at these meetings. That's all I have to say.
Karen?
Yeah, so I was verbally accosted by a select board member earlier this evening, and I still don't think I need you. Just because the budgets are so tight.
What are you referring to, please?
What are you talking about?
Oh, I can guess it's me, because
you-
I spoke back to something that Karen disagreed on, and she turned around and told me that she's been on this board longer and that I'm bratty, but I verbally accosted her.
Yes.
I think that we're not supposed to get into that anyway.
Yeah, but I'm sorry,
I
I'm
know,
not gonna
so
allow
she should
someone to
not
say
have
that I
referenced-
verbally accosted them.
You did. You absolutely did. But again,
Karen,
I don't think, so I guess we haven't learned our lesson, but maybe we need to invite our officers to come into the executive sessions now.
I was debating myself on whether or not I was going to say that because you swore at me as well.
And
So
retreats.
I think that,
Yeah.
I took the higher road and wasn't going to reference it, but you alternatively has decided to bring it up anyway. We should not be referencing any part of of anything that was mentioned earlier anyway. It's not appropriate. What we're dealing with is what we have in front of us now. You wanted to have this added to the agenda.
This is wasteful.
To you, it's wasteful, but to me, in the moment that it happened at, coupled with my past history of, having to have orders of protection against people in this community, I'm sorry, Karen. That's just the way that it goes. I didn't ask for somebody to come down at 10 o'clock at night, come in here, start screaming at me, screaming at Matt and Jane, and then want to follow me to the parking lot. If that's ever happened in your 6 years on here, I'd love to hear it, because the police were called, I was gone, and then they had to call for backup. So it can't be me that's the problem, because the backup came after I was out of here. So I would just love to understand the rationale regarding that, because it just doesn't square with the timeline that happened. And everybody should feel safe at these meetings. The select board is not being babysat by police. It's the police are here to maintain order during the meetings and to prevent what happened the last time from a repeat offense. It's that simple. So to answer your question, I don't feel safe at meetings. Sorry, I'm going to say it. And if that makes me look weak, then so be it. But I'm the one with a restraining order against somebody in this town, not you, unless you'd like to share that with me. But I'm willing to share that, all because I won an election in Reading, Massachusetts. I have a restraining order, Karen. So feel free.
Thank you. So I'm in the police report as a bystander, so I think to put in context, the incident happened after the meeting was over, and there were two select board members who were also yelling and arguing, and there were lots of people yelling and arguing. They were yelling in the hallway, they were yelling out on the front steps. It wasn't a good situation. I think what we said in an earlier discussion, that the select board needs to show some leadership. And when we're dealing with people that are upset, it is a truism that you want to de-escalate. And it was actually a pleasure watching the officers come that evening and just let people be heard, because that is like the biggest de-escalator. So I don't know anything about any other situations you have, but I am very concerned about the money that we're spending on this.
So what dollar figure would you want to put on the safety and security of members of the public, town staff, and volunteers? Is there a cap that we should put on this? Should we just, what's the number you're looking for?
Chris, no one was ever in danger.
That's your opinion. Were you going to be followed to your vehicle, Karen?
Did not see anyone follow you to your vehicle, so that's another,
that is,
I really didn't see that, and I'm named as a witness.
Well, this can be cleared up easily, right? If there was a video taken by somebody here in the room currently, if they would like to share it online.
Video that they referenced in that police report, I've never seen that. With audio would be very helpful. I don't know if we have.
You're not on Facebook, there's no audio because it's illegal in Massachusetts, just like the person who was taking the video of all of us in the room, and it hasn't been leaked yet. So in my opinion, it would be leaked if I was a problem. And since it wasn't, that would lead me to believe that I wasn't the problem. Otherwise, it would have been plastered all online. I'm over here apologizing for things previously at the start of a meeting because I sit up and own what I did. In the instance that happened back in December, absolutely not. You do not leave a Zoom meeting at 10 o'clock, come down to town hall after the meeting is over and come after us while they're trying to close town hall. I'm sorry.
We were still sitting here and we had just ended the meeting. There was an honest misunderstanding.
Correct. I agree that there was an honest
People
misunderstanding.
on both sides were tired. It was late at night.
If you had de-escalated the situation and said,
nothing. I said nothing.
I know, you could have interjected and actually solved it.
Why would I do that? You were yelling
Exactly.
loudly.
Why would you interrupt someone while they're making a mistake? Exactly.
Because that would just add to the chaos, and like we didn't need to do that. I was kind of hoping we would just let it go, and it didn't work out that way.
Let Karen go.
Karen.
So, to get this moving along, Karen's suggestion is about the cost of it. I think that the best way to approach this is if we briefly discuss today or another day of when we think that we can stop these services moving forward. So we don't have to talk about it today, but when do the members of the board feel that they're going to feel safe again in order to not have police presence so that we can save the town money? So I feel like safety is important. This incident could have happened outside of a bar. It could have happened outside the library. It could have happened anywhere. So I think if we try and move forward without relitigating the events of the evening, I think that would be a much more productive conversation rather than revisiting who said what, who did what.
I agree. But I would also like to add to that it's not just us that we would be protecting.
I understand.
You know what
No,
I
I
mean? So
understand.
like, I understand
understand.
that certain individuals cannot or should not give their opinion on this matter that are currently here. I agree, but I will always advocate for them as well.
Completely. So I
Okay.
think maybe.
So as long as we're under,
Completely. And even residents may feel unsafe sometimes. So for respect for everybody, I think trying to figure out when we can stop it is much more productive than trying to figure out why we have it here. So maybe we can revisit it in a month, but I mean, the cost is a cost that we didn't budget for. And I think police overtime is high. So I think we have to be mindful of their budget as well and our budget and police officers' time and everybody's time. So how can we move that? How can we do this?
Carla?
So I guess I'm going to ask the board, would, in my opinion, the video being released that was filmed of us would help us a lot because I clearly, well, I shouldn't say clearly, I left the room and was mostly in the hallway for this altercation. There was a lot of yelling, a lot of back and forth. I didn't hear all of it, and then I decided to leave. I distinctly remember me saying, Chris, let's get out of here. I think Melissa tried to get Chris and diffuse the situation. Ms. Herrick didn't do anything to de-escalate her friend from having an episode at all.
I understand, but I'm not sure what is watching a video going to do as far as making us feel safe or not? Like, we're gonna move
Because
beyond-
Karen's accusing Chris that this is Chris's fault.
No,
It does, at this point, it doesn't matter whose fault it was.
Okay,
I mean, we really need to get beyond.
Okay, let's get beyond it. And why hasn't the video been released? If there's nothing to see, why hasn't it been released?
But releasing the video is not going to make us feel more safe or town staff feel more safe. That's just going to explain what happened that night, and I don't think that that's something that we need to focus on right now. I think that if
Well, it's the reason we have a police officer right here.
it's the reason we had it to begin with, but now it's moving forward. How or when will it take us to feel safe again? Watching the video is not going to make us feel any safer.
Okay, that's a good point. So should we ask town staff when they feel safe? What's the barometer here?
I don't know.
I don't know
I'm
either.
asking you guys.
I don't know either.
Like, how do we figure out when we feel safe enough not to have an officer here?
I think to your point, Karen, I would only say that the absence of something being released or whatever normalizes this kind of behavior. Because if something was put out there the way that I believe it should be, that it would dissuade people from doing this kind of behavior in the future. Otherwise, if someone thinks they just got away with it, what is to prevent it from happening again? What's to prevent me from just lying up here again? You know what I mean? I apologized for when I made the accusation against Karen, and I owned up to it and that. Did I get an apology for anything that's happened since December 18th or whatever that is? I did not. I don't think any of us did. And is that okay to you? Like, that's the first step to me, is to see how we can move past this. It's always like, even the issues with Karen and myself and all that, it's just, there has to be a conversation here. If a conversation never happens, then how can we move past this? It's just going to keep brewing, and I'm going to wing it 6 months from now out of nowhere because it's just sitting here percolating the
But
whole
is this
time.
something that we could address during the retreat as opposed to in the boardroom right now?
I don't think that is something that we, like,
Let's
it's
just
a
think
thin
about
line,
it.
Karen.
Well, think about it,
Okay.
because I think that this is not being productive as far as the select board in a meeting. So,
No, I agree. I didn't want to put this on the agenda anyway, like I had mentioned. I wanted to, just carry on and we'll see how it goes. But to answer your question, like, I don't want to say we're going to play it by ear kind of thing, but we can see how things go.
how about we revisit it every month or every 6 weeks?
Do you want to have this discussion every month, though?
No, I wanted to stop.
She wants it to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like us to stop spending money. I completely respect people if they're not feeling safe. So we have to come to some kind of an agreement of when we're going to revisit it. Do you know what I mean? To try and come to make sure people feel safe. So if people don't feel safe a month or 2 months from now, we'll revisit it again. That's the only way I can see it moving forward.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Jane.
So I'd just like to add two pieces of information that may help the board through this, and I do think, maybe coming back is a good idea. But the first item is just with regard to the police department and the overtime. I also want the board to know that sometimes, and I don't know that that's true in this case, but the police department has to order in staff if they don't have enough police officers to cover overtime requests. And so that's time that police officers would otherwise be with their family or time off because nobody's taking the detail. I don't know if that's the case here, but that's a factor in overtime with the police department. And secondly, one of the individuals who was involved in this incident came in and had a nice conversation with Matt and I back in January, and we had a good conversation, and there was an apology in that conversation, and I wanted to convey that to the board. So it was a good conversation, and I think that we are moving forward well, those individuals and myself. And that doesn't speak to how you feel in the meeting. That is the board's privilege and where you are, and I understand that. So, but I wanted to convey that to the board in case you did not have that information.
I did not know that, but that is good information to know, Jane. I'm happy that that was conveyed to you both. So that means more to, listen, I don't want to say this is not my first rodeo, unfortunately, but I'm happy that that was squared away in your aspect. So to Karen Rose Gillis's kind of scenario, I think that, that obviously goes a big way towards things. I think you would agree with that, right?
I do. And no disrespect, people have fear for all different kinds of reasons, and I'm not trying to make that small or diminish it. So I just think costs are tough. Safety is important. So I think that we really need to revisit it as opposed to it just sitting there untouched.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I agree with you. So I think maybe 30 days or whatever, 2 meetings from now, unless town meeting gets involved, I think that sounds reasonable. You know what I mean?
Well, with town, why don't we just do the middle of May?
I have a suggestion.
Carlo has a suggestion.
So in, I guess, 3 weeks or so, we're going to have a new chair.
True.
And I think after we reorganize, it will be up to the new chair because they set the agenda. And then the new chair can decide when to stop it, continue it, or have another brief conversation about it. And to me, that's the easiest way and fastest way because we don't want to keep revisiting this like you said.
Okay.
Right? It happened. It was unfortunate. Yes, we need to move on, but we also need to acknowledge things as well. So I think we reorganize after the election. Let's see how that goes, and we take it from there.
Good suggestion.
Does anyone feel the need to vote on this, or are we all in agreement with that?
Well, there's no voting.
No, there is a vote on the agenda, but we don't have to if that's unless you want that to be the vote. Did you have a
That was
vote?
a suggestion. That
Yeah,
wasn't-
no, I mean, I'm fine with what you said.
There is
and
a
I think-
motion. You said
Well, I can
discuss
open it
maybe-
up to public comment before that, but
Okay.
unless anyone else has anything. Anybody for public comment? Anybody online, Maddie? We'll give them 10 seconds until the convenient police or fire alarm thing goes off. All right, Karen Rose Gillis, do you have a motion?
I'm going to wing it. Move that the board continue to have police presence at select board meetings until
After reorganization.
reorganization, where a decision will be made by the new chair.
Second.
Seconded by Melissa. Any discussion? All those in favor? 4. All those opposed? 1. All right, next agenda item is presentation and discussion on Pleasant Street status and future planning, page 8 in the packet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Katie Gabriella will join me
Yep.
here, and we'll just take you through this. This is the results of our road show. We'll go quickly through it because I don't think this will be a lot of news to folks. And we have some survey results for the survey that we put on. And I'm going to hand most of this over to Kate because she's done it. Turn your microphone up. And you don't have to have it close to you either because they've been recalibrated.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so much. Happy to be here with you folks. This is, call it the epic conclusion to our Pleasant Street Center Roadshow. I believe we came before you in January. And since then, next slide, please, Maddie. You'll see we visited a number of our boards, committees, and commissions here in town to discuss kind of future usage of the Pleasant Street Center, to see what ideas we had, to see what folks are envisioning or hoping for with this historical building. As we know, our first municipal building, currently serving as our senior center, will no longer be needed to do so once RECAL opens at the end of next summer. I'm not going to read off everyone we visited, but it was certainly many wonderful evenings. It really was. It was nice to hear the perspectives of everyone and kind of get a lot of really good feedback, some of which were showcased on the next slide, please, Maddie. We got a strong feeling from our boards that we visited that the town should retain ownership of this building. I've thrown some quotes up here. The most powerful was never ever sell property in Reading. The town should keep this important piece of history. Selling it would be short-sighted. We heard this kind of over and over again to various degrees that, you know, we're not growing more land here in Reading, and it's such a prime location in our downtown. It would behoove the town to keep it. On the flip side of that, we heard broad concerns about the cost of retaining the building. Across the board, we felt that folks were really thinking that the building should be able to cover its own expenses. So in a perfect world, maybe we are generating some revenue from usage of the Pleasant Street Center. The very minimum, whatever the tenant situation, if it is a lease, it would be great if the building could cover its costs. And I know Jane and I have been in touch with our facilities director, Joe Huggins, to get kind of that number solidified as to what that actually looks like. And I think, I want to say it was like in the $70,000 range. And that includes the heating, the cooling, the electricity, the water.
Yep, it's actually in the next presentation.
Oh,
it's right in the budget there for the next
Like we
presentation,
planned that.
so we'll, 60.
And so we just wanted to point out, you know, it's the Council on Aging having, they meet in that building, they use that building, they were really valuable in giving some perspective about, you know, some of the potential limitations. It could be cost prohibitive to do any kind of remodel. We also have the preservation restriction attached to that, which adds a different layer of kind of complexity, potential hoops we might need to jump through. That applies to both the interior and the exterior of the building. We heard that a new heating and cooling system could cost upwards of $400,000, which was an unwelcome number, to be sure. But, you know, hearing about some of these concerns lends itself to the reason that we had a successful vote and we have RECAL coming down the pipeline. So certainly trying to be aware of the juggling here of making this an appealing location to a potential lessee, while being aware of the restrictions we may have, both from a Preservation Act and from a Funding Act. So Maddie, next slide, please. Wanting to display some of the ins and outs of the survey that we launched. This was end of February.
so.
I think it was open for close to 4 weeks when all was said and done. We were very happy to receive more than 400 respondents.
700.
More than 700 respondents. It's right
was
there in
400
front of me
the first
too.
time.
It's
Yeah,
right
right
there
there.
in front of my face too. More than
Safe word.
700 residents filled out the survey. We publicized it in multiple ways. It went out in the Town Manager Minute. It was on Facebook. It was on the RCTV, the Daily Times Chronicle. I think the Recap, the Observer. We had all of our local publications kind of share this out. The library was able to host kind of a station for physical copies, as well as the Pleasant Street Center and the town clerk's office. So those who would prefer filling out a paper version and returning that to us were able to do so.
I think we had 8 of those.
I think it was closer to 15. I think
15, okay.
the Pleasant Street Center, we had to do a reprinting, which was great to see kind of the engagement coming from that audience there. And we also, we utilized town departments to share this out, to take advantage of the reach from Elder Services and the Reading Public Schools. So we really kind of fired on all cylinders to hopefully reach as many residents as we could, and we were pretty pleased with the results here. And then on the next slide, you'll see we have some of these kind of initial findings that we thought, not surprisingly, reflected what we heard from the boards, committees, and commissions in a really interesting way. So looking at kind of the ranked options of the future ownership, we saw 467 in favor of the town retaining ownership, with just a little bit less than that at 457 retaining ownership and leasing to a third party. It kind of fell off pretty significantly when it came to selling either to a nonprofit or for the highest value, with gifting to the housing authority kind of coming in that last place slot for most residents who took this. And I think the way that this was tabulated on the scale, it was ranking of first or second place. That is where we came up with these 467, 57, et cetera. And then on the next slide, you'll see kind of some of we ranked the values in terms of what residents felt the town should prioritize in determining the future use. You can see up at the top of both of these lists, both in terms of prioritizing and what would you personally be interested in future use. We saw nonprofit use very high up there. So I think that speaks to Reading's strong commitment to community service and to community use. And with the history of this building as a municipal building, I think that kind of trends right along that way. So you'll see over on the left-hand side, you'll see nonprofit promoting and hosting community events. We heard from many residents in the survey that meeting space, event space, even just gathering space, we hear from clubs, boards that, meeting space can be tight here in town, at town hall, at the library, at other municipal buildings. It would be great to have, that kind of functionality potentially at the Pleasant Street Center. Following up multi-use space, public, we saw kind of that really strong use for public access space. Where can folks gather, whether for a meeting, the third spaces. Other and housing coming in a little bit lower. And then over on the right-hand side, these expanded out a little bit more. And some of them, the food pantry ranked very highly up there. And of course, the food pantry is a nonprofit here in town. So we were heartened to see these kind of focuses on public spaces. Art Center was up there pretty high. Additional public meeting space, third spaces for youth accessible, and the like, artist studios. So it was a pretty broad sampling in terms of what folks personally might be interested in seeing happen at the Pleasant Street Center. And on the next slide, this is just another visualization that we saw from a graphing standpoint.
This is not in your packet, just so you know.
Yes.
This is added.
This is hot off the presses.
This is hot
Pay
off.
attention.
Yes.
Because you've read it, remember, you've internalized everything already.
And now
Love
you
that.
can see it in a different, it's not just in words, but it just goes to show that the strong preference that was placed from a nonprofit use, from that kind of community-centric use that we heard echoed across the roadshow. So that was really good feedback to kind of see that alignment from what we're hearing from residents and what we're hearing from our boards, committees, and commissions. And then last slide here, just a brief outline of next steps. So as Jane had mentioned, there's no action for the board tonight. You don't have a vote that you need to take at this point in time. But hoping that this could be the start of, or the continuation of the discussion around the usage of the building. Further in the packet, we have a preliminary proposal on a feasibility assessment with potential adaptive reuse of the Pleasant Street Center. We're continuing to evaluate the procurement options we have here. I've been reaching out to some of our peer communities to see how they've structured RFPs and how they've structured leases. I was talking to my colleague in Hopkinton. They are repurposing a school, and when they issued their RFP, it specified how preference would be given to a community use, an arts, or a nonprofit. So just kind of getting those really clear examples of how we're able to weight our preference when it comes to usage of the building if we do decide to move forward with a leasing option. And then, we have the note here in the final bullet. Should the disposition or lease of the Pleasant Street Center need to go before town meeting, we will continue to aim for November subsequent town meeting to put that forward to the body.
Thanks, Katie. Board?
So just a few, so we included the information in the packet from Strategy 5, which is the adaptive use proposal. And so if there's an appetite to pursue that, we can go down that road, and they'll spend some time in the spring and the summer. And that will give, it'll take into account the historical aspect and the market valuation and the highest and best use and so forth. And all of that information's in that piece. And you don't have to decide on that. You can read it, ask me questions, whatever the board feels. What we're looking to do is, once we have this decision that the board makes, if the decision is made to retain the property and then lease it out and we go down that road, then we can start doing other things. One of the things that's come up recently is green communities. Ms. Herrick has been a tremendous advocate for green communities, and we've done so much work with energy efficiency and so forth in all of our buildings prior to achieving the green community status, that we don't have a lot of buildings that qualify. But Pleasant Street Center would, and probably we would use that first grant on major weatherization through that building. And that would open us up to other grants for HVAC and so forth, because it would be about $400,000 to update that grant. The grant's about $160,000. So we can use that for other pieces that open doors to the next piece. So if we're going to keep the building, that's something that we could look at doing with that grant money. Because in order to use that grant money, you have to be able to demonstrate where the savings is, where's the energy savings. And so it's hard to do that in a lot of our other buildings where we've replaced all the lighting and we've upgraded the heating and so forth. So there's some there that our staff is looking into, but that's a factor that once the board decides, we can look at this as an option. So you have some time. If we go to November town meeting, if we need to go to November town meeting to approve a lease, we'd want to have some time leading up to that for an RFP or so forth. So we'd want to get that on the street, maybe June. And then have that awarded. And then the party would be able to, if they want to have an architect do some plans for changes in the building, they can do that. And we can talk about his historic preservation restrictions on the property. So there's a lot of pieces we need to pay attention to, but we wanted to get your feedback now that you've heard from the community, and I think we've done a robust job of seeing where people are in town vis-a-vis this property. So that's it.
Thanks, Jane. Karen?
Yeah. So is November and this June and this November a little early, since when are we predicted to move out of the Pleasant Street Center?
No, you're right. The RECAL is on time to open August of 2027. But it takes a while to plan. So for that, once that person knows where they want to go, they have time and runway to, if they need to fundraise, if they need to make plans, they need like architectural plans. They need to be able to go in and measure and do those things so that once we are ready to vacate the space and the new tenant, if we were to lease it, is ready to come in, they could have the best use of their time once they have access, because their plans would be ready to go, that kind of thing. Okay. So that's what that runway is intended to give them.
And what we would need to determine whether we're actually going to go to town meeting with a proposed lease, which wouldn't take effect for 9 months, but that's assuming we need town meeting to.
Even if we need town meeting, that's right.
Okay. So,
Because the lease, I think we need to go to town meeting if we lease the land.
Yes.
But the board has the right to lease the building.
And that's just exclusive use of the parking lot.
Right.
If it remains a municipal lot and is not granted exclusive use to whoever that tenant or tenants might be, we would not need town meeting's approval.
That's right. It would just stay.
and there's also, a notice of intent, which would, obviously check with legal, but,
yeah.
that conveys some, commitment to interested parties to do some of that fundraising, and maybe that's a precursor, and, because we could.
a great point.
And then the other, wondering about that $400,000 number and whether that includes weatherization or whether that work's still gonna be, so from the green communities, so they were like a year ago allowing you to upgrade gas to a highly efficient gas model. They don't do that anymore. So I think there's already some heat pumps. I could be wrong. It looks like there'd be heat pumps, but this kind of reconfiguration would be a weatherization and an electric type of situation. So
I think
I
that.
don't know if that's been done yet, or you just.
No, I don't think
ballparking?
so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
The weatherization would be the first step, and that's generally how they want you to go. Insulate the basement and the rim joists, and then this, that, and the other thing in the attic and around windows and doors and stuff like that. And because there's a lot of historic windows, we can't replace
Well,
those.
at the library, you can work with the historical commission, like,
can.
they get it. This is not the first rodeo where they've been like, yeah, these old windows, they're expensive to maintain, we can't find the craftsmen, they're not energy efficient. So the library does have I think it's a Palladian window or two that are new reproductions. But great, awesome,
Great, thank you.
thanks.
Anyone else? Melissa?
Just a quick question. So the preliminary feasibility study, is that something we would do? What's the timing of that? And what will that tell us exactly? That will give us
So-
what may need to be done on the building?
Yeah, it's a market analysis for a historic adaptive use. So we're keeping the historic property,
Yep.
but it's an adaptive reuse. Strategy 5 has it all written out in here. I am not an adaptive reuse expert, turns out. But it'll give the board more information if you feel you need more information about how to understand what this building could be. And what would be some of the shortcomings, what would be as owners need to keep in mind. I think it may be worthwhile.
And I agree, because I think my concerns would be I understand that tenants would make maybe some physical changes, but I would assume that we would be responsible for weathering the windows, heating system,
Yep.
roofs,
We would be the
repointment.
one.
It's a brick building. Do we have any issues with it leaking? So stuff like that would be a concern that we would want to know beforehand, because those could be very big costs.
Correct. And we would like to know sort of what's the liability, what's the risk that we would need to do. There's another factor. If we lease the building out and we don't own it anymore, we have to insure it separately. It's not covered through Maya. We would have to have a separate policy on that. And that would be through, I think the lessee would also have some insurance and things. These are just little things we need to think about. Also, how do we structure the lease? Do we want the lessee to pay for the upgrades internally? Also, do we want to separate it so that the upstairs space is leased to somebody else? We can do that, like a multi-use. And then the main floor and the basement are to another tenant. So those are some of the things that might put us in a more advantageous position with experts that have done this work before. And there's examples of their work in the packet.
Absolutely. Okay, so I would support doing this preliminary assessment just to kind of see where we stand. So we have a more realistic and, comprehensive view of what we're looking at.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
She covered what I wanted to ask.
Okay, good. Carlo?
I'm good.
So I have a couple questions. So the pitfalls of why the senior center has to get, why we had to go with a new RECAL center still exist.
Remain. Yes.
So
They do.
all the other bad is still in this building. And to hear that potentially we could spend $400,000 on some upgrade that you mentioned, I briefly caught that we'd get reimbursed $120,000.
No, it's a little different. So the cost to replace the HVAC system, the last estimate I think that Joe got was around $400,000. We're saying the first step in any work there would be weatherization. So that's sealing the building envelope better. It's an old building, it leaks a lot of heat. So making it more efficient from a building envelope standpoint, we would use that first grant to pay for those costs. And that's that $160,000 from Green Communities.
But that wrapping scenario is unknown at this time, how much that is? Or is that $400,000?
No, I think that would be less than $160,000.
Okay.
So we would limit it to what that grant piece is. So we're not gonna, I don't know, if we have enough money to buy a Palladian window or whatever, and that works within the scope of that, that's beyond what I'm prepared to talk about tonight, but we would, spend up to $160,000, whatever that grant is, for that first step, so that we can use that. But you have to kind of do the weatherization before you're going to be eligible for the rest of it anyway. The heating works. Like there is heat. We have the interim director here. She can talk about it, but it's a little bit funky, and that's a factor, with this building. But the reason that we're leaving that building and we constructed RECAL was we have a greater 60-plus growing community. This building doesn't fit the need that we need anymore. And so there are lots of reasons why we're leaving this building. But it is up to code. It has an elevator. It's sprinklered. It's an attractive building for a number of organizations that would like to be in that space. And so, there are positive benefits to.
My initial thing all the time was just to, retain it. Like you mentioned, and, lease it out to, it has to, I know we can't make money.
That's right.
Off the building. So if we have to bring it right to the nearest dollar on any lease agreements or something like that, so be it. But I am not in favor of dumping any money into this building that we're going to be on the hook for.
Okay.
Yeah, unless we're getting reimbursed, like you mentioned, through that grant. But mentioning that would mean that some other building or something else that we could have done, then we're not using the money on it for that one, which perhaps we should be doing that one instead, and we're only doing it on this one. Do you know what I mean?
And if I may, that's a great point, but we've done all of that other work. And so I don't want to conflate Pleasant Street Future with
So
Green
only
Communities.
Pleasant Street is the remaining building that's eligible for any of this grant money?
Let me just, that $400,000 number looks really high. Everything's expensive. I guess, so the green communities, you can do 2 years at once. That could be up to 500. But to Jane's point, like if we start adding air conditioning and heat pumps to the schools, it may go beyond. Yeah, so you're not wrong, but maybe this project is small enough that we could either through the tenants, like Carlo also always likes to remind us, or the Green Communities Grant, we get kind of these like critical upgrades funded.
Yeah, we can't use that initial grant on any new buildings. And we've done all that work with Noresco. We have our 15-year.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of the work in other our buildings.
I just don't want us to go down this, we're on the hook for the money scenario. Look
I
at Meteric happen, like all of a sudden we're keeping that and look what happens. And now we're going to keep the Pleasant Street Center with all the horrible stuff that was happening there that still, it's up to code, yes, but like there's a reason. So once we start opening it up and doing XYZ and then uncovering more, I don't know where this ends.
Yep.
And I know Carlo and Karen just mentioned that we can, bring it into the lease or whatever. But like, if we want the food pantry, they're going to have to come up with $100,000 to do XYZ. And then if not, tough. Like, I just don't want us to be on the hook for the money. That's all. Like something reasonable, I'm okay with. But once you start getting into the 50, 60, 100, 400,000, absolutely not. Melissa.
Just a quick follow-up to what you said, and I totally agree with you, but I think, if I'm understanding correctly, this preliminary assessment will kind of help guide us and see where we stand and kind of get a little more information before we're just blindly saying, yes, we're 100% going to keep it, and then,
You have a better sense of what are we really going to be on the hook for.
Exactly.
And I think then your sentiment has been echoed across the community. Yep, we want to keep it. it needs to pay for itself. It needs to be independent and stand on its own 2 feet, foundation, whatever you want to say. But it needs to be independent. We've heard that consistently. Nobody wants to pour more money into this building, but it's a unique property, and finding a way for it to be its next best thing without costing the community money, or ideally bringing in revenue, would be nice. We can cover all of our costs. That the intention is, if we're going to lease it, it has to cover all of the costs, and it comes at no cost to the town to maintain that property.
Carlin?
I just had a quick comment to the leasing aspect. So to me, I look at it as 3 floors, like a lot of us are looking at it, and some tenants will just need space, and that's it. Space, rooms, doors, bathrooms. Other people want space to accommodate what they want to do there and spend some money to upgrade their space. And another tenant might want less, might want more, but ideally, if we're using the food pantry as an example, which is a nonprofit, to me, they just need space and a decent amount of square footage to help the residents be more organized, have a good flow, so they're not going to be, tearing down walls, doing new lighting, let's say, putting in security. They're not going to do the upgrades that another tenant might need. So ideally, in a perfect world, we have tenant 1, 2, and 3. They're all different. They all have different needs and wants, but some is just space, and that rent will reflect that. And the rent will affect a tenant build out, a tenant improvement. Someone's going to come in and say, we're going to spend $200,000 on the first floor, but we want 6 months free. That's a discussion. So there's all different ways to do this, but until we do the RFPs, until we get a better handle on the building, I was there today, and first floor was being used. Just going to lunch and learn. I was on the second floor, and the building's active. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, my big thing is just if we need a new roof, and then it's historic, and then
that's
like
on us anyway.
it is on us. But if we didn't have the building, it ain't on us.
Correct. No,
You know what I mean? Like so, and I'm not saying that I want to get rid of it in that aspect. I want to retain it. I'm just saying that any of these, I'm not talking about we got to replace a TV on the wall. I'm talking about major expenses, roofs, heating system, whatever gas leak that may or may not still be there. Those kind of things.
Just to address the gas leak thing. Often people smell gas in the building. The fire department goes down very often, and they have never detected gas with their instruments. So they do go down, they say, call us if you smell it. They go down, they don't detect anything. So just put that out there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna say, when they have us do office hours in the kitchen room upstairs, every time that vintage 1990s gas furnace kicks on, you get an awesome puff of gas coming through there. And even if it won't kill us, I think it'll be hard to rent. So somehow we got to figure that out, or lease, because it seems like a health hazard, and it was nasty. So I know what I was like. Finally, I know what you're talking about, because I was like, yeah, you don't want to be there. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Anybody else before I open it to the public? Any public comment on this agenda item? John. 2 minutes, name and address.
Didn't think I was going to talk to this. John Sasso, 66 Richards Road. I just would ask the select board maybe to do one kind of balanced thing here, is ask about what the commercial value of this property would be, not just in terms of the sale. I mean, we got quoted at town meeting, $965,000 for an estimate, but not just what the sale value would be, but what the tax value would be after in terms of the revenue into the town. We're asking the community in the near future to be, bringing in all this extra debt and all this extra cost. I think we should have a balance to at least understand what the decisions are, what the different information is that we should have. So not just look at, okay, we want to keep the building, that's great. Maybe we all believe that, but we should know what the balance and trade-off is and be able to present that to the community so that they have a good decision. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Anybody else? Anyone online, Maddie?
I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
All right. We will move on then to the presentation by RECAL Operations Subcommittee, page 40 in the packet.
Thank you. So we have the Operations Committee with us this evening. And you'll be presenting at the podium, some of you.
I'm going to get up.
Yeah, I'm just,
Jane's leaving.
Oh, Jane's leading off.
I am, just the first few slides. But I'd like to recognize John Sasso and Jenna and Emily Sisson and Carrie Valley, and Jim Sullivan has also been a big part of this presentation. So now I'm just going to the slides. Maddie, if you can show the slides. We, I don't know if you noticed, but we loaded up your packet with all the things that this Operations Committee has done. And this is great because then everybody can see they've been working on a lot of policy. They've been doing it iteratively and then bringing it back to Council on Aging and Recreation Committee and getting feedback and then reworking it. So a lot of work has been done. We're for the sake of time this evening, we're going to try and move through this presentation fairly quickly. Next slide, please, Maddie. If you've seen our previous presentations, we always like to lead off with our vision statement. This just reaffirms that this is a building that will be working with Elder and Human Services, Recreation, and Veterans Division, and that it's fostering health and wellness, it's social interaction, strengthening our community, and providing a point of access to programs and services for all ages. We have our RECAL mission statement. I'm not going to read that again. And we have our guiding principles. And we use these as touchstones as we write policy and we review it, just to, are we reflecting our vision statement? Are we reflecting our principles? So moving on, the next portion is being presented by Mr. Sasso.
Hello again. So you might ask, so why are we doing this now? Given that RECAL is 17 months away. There was a lot of extensive effort just to bring RECAL up to where we were today and get the voters to approve it. But it's still left the construction effort, which has now really been put under the purview of the PBC. But what about the plan for what's going to happen when the building opens? There were questions about initial budget operating estimates. I'd call them, they were originally kind of soft, so they needed further scrutiny. And we really wanted to have a better understanding of what those projected costs were going to be, so to help with the fiscal planning. Before RECAL opens, there is also going to be a number of changes to the operating processes in the town, especially within Recreation and EHS, and those really needed to be viewed in light of what RECAL was going to be as well. Or more, I would say more importantly, how those processes will dictate the way RECAL is going to operate as well. So we needed to kind of make sure we understood that. And there were still some unanswered questions about how the scope, given the scope of RECAL, it was going to cover multiple departments, different needs. How are we going to manage that? Not on this slide, but as the effort continued, we really wanted to give the community insight into what was going on and giving them an opportunity and a way to have input into this process. Next slide, please. So Jane has already introduced, we basically put together a small working group. Town staff is really responsible for the operational plans, and they recruited two community members, myself and Emily, to assist. I guess I would just comment that there was a lot of great synergy, bringing some different perspectives from everybody, and everybody really willing to contribute, and really keeping it small really allowed us to have really good communication and very effective meetings. So I'm very happy to have been involved in this and can hopefully hope to continue. Next slide. So as Jane mentioned, you've got about 78 pages in the select board packet of work that's been done thus far. It's been about 7 months worth of effort thus far, but it isn't just what's written on the paper. It's all the presentations that have made, the meetings with COA, with Recreation, open to the community. We just had the ones I think everybody here was at the budget presentation a few weeks ago. I'd like to say it's been a transparent effort, and we've endeavored to respond to all the feedback that's been provided. But there's still more work to do, and we'll talk a little bit more at the end of this of what our next steps are. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of a history lesson here. I think everybody may or may not know. This has actually been 10 years in the making. So the town actually made RECAL a priority and made investments in the 60-plus community, not just ARPA, but also additional budgeting funding. And those were funded really to address some of the needs that hadn't been met from a senior standpoint. And while a significant part of RECAL is intended to better meet and serve the 60-plus community, it's just a building. And it really needs an operational plan to make it a good working plan and to execute. It's also going to be an asset that's going to serve the community as a whole. So we really felt this whole planning effort was the right approach. Next slide. So Jane already went through the vision, mission, and guiding principles, so I'm not going to go back through that again. But as Jane said, we were reminded every time we do this presentation, we want to make sure that gets put in front of us. Next is Emily. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hi, everybody. Emily Sisson, 92 John Street. I missed the meeting this morning or yesterday when they were doling out slides, and they were nice and gave me the easiest ones. So I'm just going to talk about operating hours, space, that kind of stuff. So, we're starting to think about, like, when will this building be operating? How will it be open? And the hours that we've kind of landed on Monday through Friday, 8 to 8, and weekends 9 to 5 and 9 to 1 for Saturday, Sunday. But that doesn't preclude them from using space in the evenings on weekends for rentals that would be not staffed by, front desk and that kind of thing. So one of the important things to note is just the volume of space we're gaining in this. So we did an opportunity assessment of how many hours are we programming PSC right now. And I can't see the slide, but it's like 190 something.
0.5.
And, we're talking more than doubling the amount of time that will be available in this RECAL space, just because there's so much more volume. Next slide, Maddie, please. So this is just first floor, just a reminder. We've seen specs and drawings and renderings of the building, just a reminder of what the different spaces are. Of note, the gym will be 6,600 square feet. The multipurpose room will be 2,100 square feet. So these are very large spaces that we can kind of dole out for programming. We can dole out for rentals, meetings, and open community space for people to gather in. There's, the lounge, the card room, and the health and wellness room. And one of the plans that is in your packet is for the fitness room, about how that will, work with the center. Next slide, please. And then on the second floor, there's the walking track that we've talked a lot about. Almost 19 laps will get you a mile. There's the arts and crafts room, which will be great for programming, the fitness and equipment room that I mentioned, and the makerspace room, and the billiards room, where they plan to have 2 billiards tables, and a small gathering space for our veterans. So a little bit smaller up in the second floor than some of the bigger spaces downstairs, but still a lot of great usable space for programming and for community engagement. Next slide. They even gave me the pictures. So in addition to the kind of spaces that were listed in the first and second floor, we're designating some of those spaces on the first floor as our senior hub. This will be for our 60-plus population, so they have, a space for them to meet, to have some unstructured time to, be together and interact. There'll be outdoor spaces. There's a patio. There'll be a walking trail. And then, of course, the pickleball courts will be right there. So I know some of us are very excited about those. And then the community services administrative offices will be moved into that building owing to space constraints here. So, next slide. And these are just some pictures of, artist rendering of what the card room and the gym might look like. And this is why I got the easiest slides. Look at these pretty pictures. So, and now the hard stuff. Off to you, Jen.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job, Alex. Thank you.
Oops. Thank you. Thankfully, I don't need that, but thanks so much, Marilyn. Jenna Wood, Community Services Director. Thanks so much for having us here, and thanks for the board's involvement in coming to a lot of these meetings. I feel like you guys are already pretty well versed and tapped into what's going on, so we really appreciate that as staff. We appreciate the support, and we know it's a very collaborative process, and we just really appreciate all of your help, and we're looking forward to feedback. We don't want you to we don't want anyone to think that this is set in stone. This is a preliminary draft, and we do have some time to really fine tune what we're doing in the building. But we really think that this operations group and working with the COA and the rec committee and, the community at large too, people call all the time and give their feedback. We really think that we have a transparent process going. So I just wanted to say that before I started. But Section 5 of the operations plan is the team at the Reading Center for Active Living. So you'll see all of the current staff that it would be in the building right now. The person that is not on this is a therapeutic recreation specialist that we intend to hire. That's a part-time position. But other than that, these are all of our team members that are here. Next slide. And I also just wanted to mention too that in the packet, there's a brief description of what each of those roles entail as well. So if anyone in the community wants to look to see what Carrie does or what I do, or Jim, you can certainly look in the packet to get reference on that. So the next section of the operational plan is the policies and the procedures. What we did was we created these packets. We didn't completely reinvent the wheel. Sandwich had some really great existing documents, and we have reached out to the director and gotten some great information from her. So we did use some of that information in Sandwich, but also with the help of our staff and the COA and the recreation committee, we did come up with fine-tuning all of those packets and presenting them to the boards. And these are the draft forms that are still being worked on. We do have some work to do on that, and existing forms that currently are unchanged are also on this slide as well that you can take a peek at. Next slide. Thank you. All right, so the membership package, these are all the things that the membership packet includes. Again, it's in your select board packet, all of these great documents that we have come up with. So we have the welcome letter, the family registration form. We'll also have an individual form that Carrie and her team will be working on specifically as well to ask some of those more important questions for the 60 plus that's coming in. Do you live alone? Just certain specific things to Carrie and her team that we want to capture in that individual form. General policies, programs, participant consent and waivers, indoor track policy, standards of independence, also in relation to the 60 plus. And then we just have some quick takeaways of what you can do with this membership form. You can fill it out online or in person. All the members will need to have a key tag to this building for access, etc. Next slide. The fitness equipment room package includes an intro, room prerequisites, general policy, rules and regulations. We did get some comments in the last meeting about the fitness room specifically, so I wanted to just clarify why we decided to charge a fee right now for the fitness room. And again, this is something that we can discuss at a wider conversation. But operational costs, obviously we'll need a personal trainer for orientations. If people would like to get an orientation, they're going to be allowed to do that. So we need to pay for a trainer. And we can also offset the costs of our part-time staff and some maintenance inside of that inside of that fitness equipment room with the fees that we charge for the fitness room. And we can also use it as a program funding source to help subsidize low cost or free programs like our youth sports, our senior activities, and other classes. And we also did it to manage demand. So if we're charging a fee, we can prevent overcrowding and ensure people using the space are really committed to using that space. Next slide. The room rental policy, that one took a little bit of time. We referenced the facilities existing policy with all of their different structures for nonprofits and profits and in-town committees and things like that. So we really did have to go a little deeper into this one. And then there's some takeaways on here. You'll notice, and I just wanted to clarify on this, that it says no food prep allowed and it must be done off-site. And that's just the intention for now. We do hope in the future to have some opportunities for
catering companies or perhaps Meals on Wheels to come in there and cook some food and have other opportunities. But when we get into this building, we need to get our bearings about us and learn the equipment and learn the safety rules and regulations. But we do hope to create a more comprehensive subset of that room rental for the kitchen and things like that. And we'll need to dive a little bit deeper into that. Next slide. So the programming policy is the next big thing that we talked about. I think we talked about this in December with the Council on Aging and the Recreation Committee. The programming policy is quite a few pages in the packet. We really wanted to focus on this and make sure that this was an equitable space for all ages, but we did want to prioritize our 60+ community. So in this particular slide, this just talks about the programming calendars and also talks about how the gym will have a separate calendar as well to manage the programs inside the gym. Next slide. We will be having frequent programming meetings, as you can suspect, with all of our staff members quite frequently. A lot of our programming we do plan out very far in advance. Our program coordinators are extremely diligent. So if we have fall programs, we're releasing them in July, planning them in January. We already have all of the rooms booked and all of that good stuff. So Anna and Ed do a tremendous job already communicating on several different events and programs. Ed runs stuff at the senior center when we're limited with space. And we run several different intergenerational events as well. So they have a really good collaborative relationship. And we will have a programming schedule request form that all of our staff will fill out. So if there's competing interests, we come to the table with that internal document that is also in the packet. And people can collaborate in that meeting and talk about, hey, here's the space we need, here's the space we need. And maybe if there's a competing interest, we figure out what's most important as a team. Next slide, please. So the programming prioritization, we obviously want to prioritize our 60+ programs. And then next would be recreation veterans, other town departments, town committees, and the room rental requests. Next slide. So we just wanted to highlight that the fitness equipment room and the walking track were extremely, they're wide open. Anyone in the community can go there and enjoy these facilities. Obviously, you do need a pass to go into the fitness equipment room, but you can come in and walk the track. And we wanted to really specify that. The big takeaway that we had in our Council on Aging Recreation Committee meeting was prioritizing the gym. So the Recreation Division, the Recreation Committee preferred that the gym be more communal, and it's a large space, and they wanted it to be very equitable for the whole community. So we took that feedback and we just edited the program policy to reflect that in the afternoon, after like 3:30 or 4, I don't think we specified an exact time yet, that space will not be priority driven. But again, we'll work together as staff to prioritize all the different needs, make sure that we're looking at rental opportunities for operations, and just being a little bit more collaborative later on in the day. But certainly there will still be 60+ programs in there. But recreation was just looking for a little bit more space in that gym since it's so large. Next slide, please. And then sections 8 through 10, as John said, we still have some work to do. We still have some work to do fine tuning, obviously what we've already done too, because it's very complex. But the next thing that we'll be presenting on in, I believe, July will be transportation. I know Jane announced that we have a tremendous grant that we got. Andrew McNichol was a huge part of helping with that, so I can't thank him enough. And so we'll be coming forward with information about that and our existing transportation structure and what we plan to do in the future. And then obviously 9 and 10, we have worked very closely already with facilities and our police department and our fire department, but we want to make sure that their input is more is more fleshed out in this platform. So for example, the police department will come up with a whole emergency plan for us. So if there's an active shooter, God forbid, or an emergency, there's a fire, or they'll help train our staff and come up with those policies and procedures for us. And same thing with facilities. They already have existing policies that they manage all of their facilities with, and checklists and all of that. So we just want to make sure that we cross-reference with them and make sure that everything that they want to include in this is included. And I think that's it for me, and I'll turn it over to Jane.
All right, thank you, Jenna. You may be called upon again, Madame. All of you, don't leave. So you've all seen the budget. We haven't changed these numbers since we presented them previously, but we have reformatted, thank you, John Sasso, the table, so it's a little easier to read. And what you're looking at is for the departmental expenses, so that's Elder and Human Services, it's looking like an increase of $112,721. This does include our state grant support is included in covering salaries. So our state grant is offsetting Elder and Human Services salaries right now. I have not remodeled this budget with a different model. One of the things we've talked about, don't really want to confuse the conversation, but is moving our state programming grant funds to the expenses side and making sure that our positions are fully funded by the general fund. So that grant is always going into program support, and we'd be able to have more money in the expense side, and we could move some of what we're doing right now back into salaries, and then we have to model that a little bit better, but that would increase our programming funding with grant funds, which we think makes more sense. But that's not what's presented here. This is sort of under the existing structure we have now, just so it's an apples to apples comparison. It does include the part-time therapeutic rec position. And then we also carry the RECAL part-time staff. Those would be new positions that would allow us to stay open later. Those would probably be covered by the revolving fund, the recreation revolving fund. You'll note that recreation expenses are not on here. They are currently all covered by the revolving fund. They will still be covered by the revolving fund. So to keep that apples to apples comparison, that's part-time summer staff and things like that. That are covered there, and then like all the different things that expenses cover for recreation, so many things. So moving on to the facilities, this is really where the bulk of the increase comes. Preventative maintenance services, those are our contracts that we use to maintain our public buildings. You can see right now with the Pleasant Street Center, it's about $16,000 annually that they're taking for those contracts, and that's going to go up to nearly $70,000. Staffing and cleaning services, this is your big jump. That's $280,000. That includes the addition of 2 full-time custodians and a full-time maintenance tech. And we've talked about, how much our facility staffing is. We believe this is the best model to care for a brand new building. And then the utilities increase is modeled to be about a $26,000 increase. And that is our best guess, but we believe it's a pretty well-informed guess. So what you're seeing is a total increase between Elder and Human Services increases. And a lot of these increases, or some of these increases with salaries are normal, salary increases, COLA increases, but it's not a big portion. It comes to $471,382. We're looking to offset some of these expenses, and we have a very conservative projected revenue here with departmental funding support. So that's revolving and trust fund support from trust funds that we have. Some trust funds need to have approval from the Council on Aging, others don't. And the revolving fund doesn't have to. We have the room rental revenue, And we have the fitness and equipment room memberships are estimated there, and then additional RECAL program revenue. So that's when we're running programs and folks are paying for programs. That is a very conservative estimate at $211,600. I don't know if you want to give the background, Jenna, on how these numbers were calculated. Do you have that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do have a document that I could go through really quick.
I don't know if the board has an appetite for that right now, but when we talked about it, when we spoke about it at the joint meeting, this is a very conservative, like we're confident we can make 211,000. We're pretty sure we can bring in a significant amount more, but we want to be as conservative as possible. So that is the budget. And then if you look at the timeline, this just tells you, so what we did in October, we presented draft policies. In December is the draft programming policy. We revisited and discussed items in the draft policy in January. We presented the projected operational cost this month. You're hearing that now. And we try to bring things first to the Council on Aging and the Recreation Committee together before we bring them here. So they have been able to see everything first and have a chance to speak to it. In May, we'll have an update on the new programming software. And then July, we'll be looking at transportation and future needs. So that is the timeline. And next slide, Maddie, is just for board discussion. So thank you. I just do want to thank all of the members of the operations committee. They've been great to work with, and it's a lot. I mean, we're meeting a lot. And people are working. These are daytime meetings, so we're grateful for them making time to do this work. Thank you.
Board members, any questions? Melissa?
I just want to say thank you to all of you for doing all of this work and bringing this forward. I know it was a lot of work and a lot of thought went into this of how to accommodate both our 60+ community and making them a priority, but also the whole community in itself, because that's how the building needs to be used. So I really appreciate it, and you guys did a really good job. So thank you.
Karen?
I would say the same thing, and I've been to a lot of the meetings, and my head is spinning, and I've seen a lot of this already. So you've done a fabulous job. I'm really looking forward to it, and I know that it's like any kind of living project. It's going to up and down and circles, and it'll all come out nice when the doors open. So thank you.
Carlo, Karen, no?
Well, I just want to, not that I want to overshadow anyone else, but John Sasso has been doing this a long time, a very long time. And, town staff gets paid, he does not. So I want to acknowledge John Sasso from being on RECAL with Mark Doxer for many years and the whole entire committee. But I just want to acknowledge that and echo my colleagues. Thank you very much. I think all of us were there at the joint presentation. So this is good for the public to see. I know it's ongoing work. And we're step by step, we're getting closer to this building coming to fruition. So thank you.
Thanks, Carlo. Karen?
I'd like to echo some of the comments my colleagues have made. Thank you for the hard work. And I was just wondering, one thing that the Newton RECAL provides is like durable medical equipment for the 60+ population. How do we handle that in Reading?
I'm going to defer to Jenna and Carrie.
We don't currently have any rental.
To the podium, Madame. Thank you. For the folks at home.
Yeah, Carrie Valet, interim director. We don't have space for equipment. My personal experience with equipment would be I don't really want to give out equipment. I think a PT or physical therapist should be measuring people for canes, walkers. I feel like it throws people's balance off if we start handing out used adaptive equipment. So I would not want to be doing that in the future.
All right, and I was just wondering, questions about the showers. Mm-hmm. So this is an emergency use building. So showers aren't cheap, plumbing, tiling, all that good stuff, but they could be closets too. Was there any discussion, what kind of we have cooling centers now that nobody ever goes to on hot heat days. But I'm just wondering, and I'm sure the architect said this is a good idea, and I'm just wondering if there were ever discussions about what kind of calamity would occur and send us to a building in this community.
Yep, that's a great question. Maddie, if you could just go to the next page. There you go. That's the floor plan. Nobody can see what that floor plan is, but for folks at home, the floor plans are in the packet online, so you can take a look at them. And we have floor plans, I think, down at the Pleasant Street Center that people can look at too. Or you can come to Town Hall. I have them in my office. This, and I think they're also online on our RECAL page. Yes, we did have conversations. A great example, which I had personal experience with, was the gas pipeline issues in Andover, North Andover, and Lawrence. At the time, I was the senior warden of an Episcopal church, actually, and we had 4 properties that were impacted by that, and it destroyed all of our heating and our stoves, and just wreaked havoc across the whole community. At Andover town offices were closed down. That's why they have a mobile town hall. We had insurance companies in there providing backup heating systems, external boilers, all of that stuff. And emergency services, the people didn't have power, didn't have heat, and it was okay. It was early September, but then as they went into the winter and they still didn't have their services turned back on, it got to be really problematic. The issue with having a school as an emergency shelter is that the students can't be there when you're utilizing the shelter. So do we think the whole community is going to have to use the shelter? Not likely. But there are scenarios where we can think there would be some people who would need to have access to a shelter. And if we have it not in a school, kids can still go to school, we don't disrupt education, and we can still take care of what needs to happen here. And so those were the factors why we had showers put in, why there's a floor drain in the arts and crafts room on the second floor. That is so that pets could be accommodated in this building. The floor drain is so you can, obviously in crates or whatever, but very few emergency shelters can accommodate household pets, and people sometimes won't leave their house if they have to leave a pet behind. And we did experience that this year. We had homes that lost heat at different points in time. They didn't lose power, but they lost heat. And we had people who would not leave their home because they would not leave a pet. I think we actually had some that lost power too, Carrie, you remember? Yeah, it was Elderberry. It was Elderberry, yeah. That just happened the other day, like last week. And so, we have residents that are on oxygen or whatever. So we would be able to accommodate them in a building like this, and we wouldn't disrupt school. So that's why those choices were made. And that was a conversation that Chief Burns was a really big part of, because he was our emergency management director. Fire chiefs usually are. So that's the backstory of how we got here. To these decisions that were made. And that's one of the major reasons why the kitchen is a commercial kitchen. Because in order to qualify as a shelter, it has to be a commercial kitchen. Same thing, this generator here is much bigger than the generator, relatively speaking, than Killam, because the Killam school is just to keep the lights on if they need to for a few hours. This generator is meant to be running the whole building in an emergency situation. So.
All right. No one could have predicted those awful gas explosions. I just didn't know. I hate to build three showers and say for 50 years no one's ever going to use them, and maybe we'll get lucky. And
well, I think they'll be available. People, work up a sweat in one of the fitness rooms, or use the walking track. They can go take a shower.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because this kind of says they're completely off limits at the moment. If I'm reading this correctly, maybe I made a mistake.
Again, up for
It's a policy. It's a policy, right? Yeah.
It's not like a primary bathing area, but I don't know. I need more exercise.
If someone had a medical emergency, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a different kind of emergency. But if
You're
they
right.
knew, I just had a personal physical emergency. If I knew there's a shower, I could go get clean. Yeah.
That's right. I think
Okay.
that's a good use.
All right, thanks. I was just curious, and that's a great example.
Those
Thank
are
you.
great. Those are great questions. We welcome them.
My question, I know when I visited the Pleasant Street Center a couple years back with the gas smell that does not exist.
Does, but it doesn't.
But sometimes it does.
Schrodinger's gas smell.
I was in the basement, and the biggest ask at that time, which I'm sure still is the shine counseling in the private kind of space area that is needed for those kind of discussions. I didn't see that in anywhere in the presentation of an area for like that kind of private, where you don't have to walk through somebody else's room to be able to get to this other conference room thing.
I can
Is
show it to
that
you.
not in here, or?
Oh, it's in here.
Okay.
Yeah, Maddie, can you go to the next slide? Not really a slide. And can you zoom in? On the second floor. Yeah, and then go to the other side. Nope, to the left. To the left. Now down a little bit. Down a little bit more. Okay, so I'll get up. Thank you, Maddie. This space right here is for shine counseling, tax preparation, and so there's a desk here, and this is the nurse's medical equipment. And so this is locked. The nurse is the only person who can access this. And then this space, I'm sorry, folks can't see, this space is a desk, and so this can be used for those so you can have your shine counseling in here, you can have your tax preparation in here, you can have, what else, Carrie? You're gonna have?
We're having one-on-ones.
Yeah, one-on-ones, you can have, we bring in therapy, whatever.
You could do bereavement.
Bereavement, you could, depending on how many people. So this is the veterans outer office here, this is the veterans inner office, and this is meant for some group space as well. So right now it's got a desk and a small table and some chairs, but it may be more like couches. Do you know what I mean? Couches and chairs. We do want to have chairs with two handles because it's easier for folks that are older to get up. So, the furnishings in here, this is your billiards room area. This is veterans office here. These are staff offices here. There is a meeting space here. And also the only place in the building that's like a lunchroom or a break room for staff. And so there is a little spot here where there's a sink. It's not on this drawing. So that's just to give you a sense. There's also this maker space over here. These are movable tables, and then there'll be some computer stations down here, but there might be 3D printing in here. There might be robotics in here. We have a lot of fantastic retired engineers and non-retired engineers that will be able to do work in here, keep projects going, all kinds of stuff. So, and then your elevators here. So there's your fitness equipment room right there. And we have a list in the packet of all the equipment that will be in there. But yeah, this is where those one-on-ones will be.
So I guess unless I'm reading this wrong, how do you get into the conference room at the bottom left?
You come in through community services here.
So it's multiple doors before you get to it, though, right?
Right. This is meant to be mostly for staff use or business use.
Okay.
So public meetings would not happen here. Public meetings would happen downstairs in the multipurpose room. And I think, Maddie, if you can go back to the previous floor plan, please. Yep, the previous one. There you go. Thank you. So multipurpose room here. We'll have all these tables. This will be designed for public meetings that will split in half. There's a large screen against this wall, and there's TV screens here like this. So you can have two meetings at the same time. There's a divider wall here. You can also have meetings in this room. I believe we have the sound set up in this room so that there's a hearing aid assist built in this room as well, screen as well. But we also have, for hearing assistance, we have separate pieces that people can wear around their neck and they can take it all through the building. It'll work everywhere.
And my last question is, so I'm sure there's some data to back this up, but why is Sunday only 9 to 1? It seems like a busy kind of weekendy day during the summertime, I would say, not during the winter, but like base it off library hours. What time is the library open on Sundays? I don't actually know that.
It is open on, I don't know the exact hours. Library is open like a half day on Thursday. Like it opens late. I think at noon or 1. There you go. Thanks. There you go. So those are the hours right now. We can rent them longer hours, but the intention is like we would be offering regular programming during these hours. So we'd have to provide programming and
Oh, so
staffing.
you'll still be able to rent it, though. So my
Yes.
question where I just mentioned, I think you're lacking in that aspect, you could be renting during that time frame instead. Okay.
Right, and the rental costs will offset, like, the custodial. We need to have a custodian there to close the building and make sure the security is operating, so.
And there is a separate entrance and exit to the gym thing? I know this was brought up before. Okay. As long as there is, you don't have to show me.
There's an entrance here.
Okay.
There's an entrance there, and you come in here as well, and then you have these doors.
So we'll be able to have the gym, so you don't have to clean the whole building. It's just the gym area
That's
at
correct.
certain hours.
Yeah, these would be open for egress, right, for safety purposes, but you could say, we're gonna monitor the entrances here that, and direct people to certain areas, so we're not opening the whole building.
Okay.
Yep. And we'll have staffing in there, so people won't be wandering around, it'll be well cared for.
Anyone else?
Good.
Anyone from the public have any questions, comments? Marilyn, 2 minutes, name and address.
Yep, it won't take long. Marilyn Shapley, 11 John Carver Road. I just question the Shine model. It fits the current Shine, but I know those lists get filled up fast. I've called on like day 2 and they're already booked. We need at least 2 Shine operators operating at the same time, and it will take more room that's usually going to be available. And it's part of a bigger discussion. We're looking for other space as well. But I think it would meet today's needs, but today's needs don't meet all the senior needs. So my 2 cents worth on the Shine.
Certain times of the year, yeah, you're absolutely right.
4 months of the year.
Yeah, exactly, no.
All day and evening. Yes.
Sure.
So yes, the Shine appointments are extremely important. The current people that we have are volunteers, so there's not a guarantee that we'll have volunteers. Like 1 year, we didn't even have tax prep because we couldn't get people to volunteer and figure out the AARP tax prep. So same thing with the Shine volunteers. Right now, they're not happening simultaneously. They're happening in the morning and in the afternoon. And we do have a more comprehensive sheet on that we'll be presenting at the Permanent Building Committee next week to just show how many times a week that we can expect, and maybe in the future it will expand, but if we don't have a volunteer, it wouldn't even run. And we're lucky to have those 2 volunteers, but it's not even a guarantee. So we don't want to be creating extra spaces per se and overthinking that when we don't know what the future will hold. Alternatively, could be very popular, but we can only go based on what we know now. And Carrie, do you want to?
Yeah, I just want to say,
Yeah.
Mystic Valley provides us with the Shine counselors. They train them, and qualify them to be Shine counselors, and then they ship them out to the centers. We only have 2. We've asked for more. They just don't have the capacity to supply us with any more people just because there's a lack of volunteers. Jenna's right. We might not have volunteers in the future for Shine. It's a very comprehensive program. It's very complicated with Medicare and all this stuff. So it takes a lot of knowledge to be a Shine counselor. So I don't know what the projection for the future of that would be. I hope it continues because it's a great program for people.
Karen,
Thank you. I just wanted to, I'm not that familiar with the Shine program. I don't know if anybody else is. Could you give us an overview?
Yeah, so basically anyone 60, turning 60 plus or 65 plus that needs to get on Medicare or is having trouble finding an insurance policy, a plan that works with their budget, the Shine counselors are trained to help people pick the right insurance plan that fits their needs. They do not help with assisting people get on Mass Health, but they help with supplemental plans like in addition to Medicare A and B. Yeah. Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I just want to make a quick comment. I know that it's hard to plan for the future, like you said, Jenna, to know if we're going to have the space in that. And hearing that Mystic Valley has to be in charge of this, I just think that the opportunity in a new building, a lot more people are going to be going to this than the current one. So I know it's difficult to plan these what-if scenarios, but I just want to make sure that we don't need RECAL 2.0 like 25 years from now, hopefully, when none of us are here. myself included. I just want to make sure, because like I said, that was one of the bigger items that was pointed out to me beyond everything else was that private space, and I want to make sure that this is taken care of. And, you know, if it is lack of somebody else that we can't control, I understand that. But if we can do something or control these scenarios, then we absolutely should be. So it seems like you're up on top of it, so that's all we can really ask for. Anyone else in the room before I go online? Ron, I see your hand online. So 2 minutes, name and address.
Ron Powell, 328 South Street in Reading. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. First of all, I just want to thank the RECAL Operations Subcommittee for an excellent presentation, very informative. Thank you. I just have 2 questions. The first question I just wanted to clarify that I heard correctly, that the kitchen, you're not going to be allowed to do food prep. Caterers will not be permitted to do food prep in the kitchen. Did I understand that correctly? And if that is the case, I just wanted clarification as to why that's the case.
John.
Temporary.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you got it. Yeah, temporary.
So Ron, these policies that we're working on right now are sort of when we're ready to open the building, where we're going to be. So initially, it will be temporary that we won't be doing food prep. We're not going to be making meals in the kitchen right now. We may move to a model where we're working with, I've talked about this a few times, the school lunch program, the school food services program may come down and prep food in that kitchen. As staff learn to use the commercial equipment, they may choose to do something like that, or we may have caterers, professional caterers come in and use that kitchen. But initially, we're going to learn to walk before we run, and so that's the intention with that. But the long-term use is, maybe we can get a chef. I'm not making promises, but I think that would be a wonderful thing as our 60-plus population grows.
So, Jen, the initial intent was the rental.
One sec. Ron, we'll pause your time, which was paused previously. John Sasso has a follow-up to Jane.
Initially, the policy was actually targeted towards the rental of the space in the
There
kitchen.
you go.
Not
Thank you.
necessarily for not using the kitchen to cook, carte blanche.
Okay.
So, thank you.
So we're not renting it out.
Right.
Thank you for the clarification. I must have missed that meeting.
Both of your answers.
And you had one other question, Ron?
Yes. The other question I had was just regarding Shine and tax prep and the other small group space. Jane, I apologize. I couldn't see where you were pointing online, but I think you were pointing to the office space outside the nurse's office and the card room. Is that?
In the second floor, outside the billiards room. Yeah, immediately adjacent to the billiards room.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Anybody else online want to make a comment?
I don't see any other hands raised right now.
All right. Thanks, Maddie. And thank you all once again for putting this together. It is, as you said, dozens, if not hundreds of pages in this packet. So thank you for well, listen, you put a lot of work in. So we thank you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll move on to the first reading, discuss valet parking regulations 119 in the packet. And we'll just give it a moment for everyone to clear out and then.
So I would like to move to page 124 in the packet, the draft valet
124.
parking regulations. The first portion that I gave you was some information that you had last fall to kind of determine, did you want a regulation or did you want to go through a procurement model? The board decided to go through a regulation model. So what you have before you are the draft regulations that IVRIA has developed. And this is the first conversation about valet parking. I have not given this to the police department I've given it to them only recently to get back, their deep input on these regulations. The conversation has been with the police department that they are very cautious. They're not in favor of valet parking regulations because they think it will be impossible for them to enforce. And it's just something that the board needs to be aware of. We will get more detailed information from the police department, though, for you. But this was just to start that conversation. I know some of the board members wanted to have this conversation, and we want to get ahead of it in case there are businesses in town, should the board pass it, that would like to be doing it when the weather is better. So those are my initial comments as we go through. We do have Kevin McCarthy here, but the board has the regulations packet. I didn't know if there were particular issues that you had questions about.
Board members, questions?
I just think it's a great first draft. A lot of information here, and I think it'll be up to us with the input of the police, even though we already heard from them last year when this all started, that they're not in favor. I don't think they'll be changing their mind. But after reading through this, I think a lot of thought and effort was put into this. And my feeling is personally that this is not going to be widely used. One restaurant brought it forward. I think it's a great idea, and it'll be on a case-by-case basis and available to everyone. But most restaurants probably won't use it, but that remains to be seen. So I think at the next discussion, we can talk more about fees. I know there's some examples in here. And, insurance requirements and a lot of good information here. So I'm happy with this first go around. I know it took a while to get here, but I look forward to the next conversation.
Thanks, Carlo. Karen?
It is a good document. I'm not in favor of valet parking. As we all know, I walk down there all the time with my dogs, and it's in front of post 1917. I talked to Jane about it a little bit, saying that Haven Street is just not set up for that. I think that particular restaurant is probably one of the only ones that would need it until farther down Main Street develops. There might be something down there that goes in that we have no idea years and years from now. I don't think it's going to work on Haven Street. I think that he would have to move it to, is it Sanborn that's on the corner? Where the handicap parking space is, on the quieter space, because there's not a lot of space for people to go around. Like if you're standing there and when you see everybody's parked in front of it, they're parked on the other side, they're all parked in front in the bank parking lot already. So all those people are going to have to move somewhere else, which is fine because we've got a great parking lot where Atlantic was. I just don't think that Haven Street is a good place to have valet parking, especially if somebody can park or double park for, do you know what I mean? Like people line up to do valet parking, and there's really not many places for them to go.
My question is how many, it's not every spot or the whole area over there. How many are you thinking that is going to be utilized?
Even in front of his, it was 2 spaces, but if you've got people queued up waiting to get into the spaces, that's my concern.
I see what you're saying.
And so, did you have your hand raised?
I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
But
that's okay.
I just wanted to, before the board tonight is not a specific plan for a specific business. It's just the general process that the board would go through. I just want to, for the public to know.
This is a great document if we decide to adopt it. I really want to rely heavily on what the police say and get into nitty gritty details with them on those kinds of issues. But this is a great place to start.
No, I understand.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand the queuing aspect. I think that is more of a, as you know, a case-by-case basis. There could be 100 cars there, which is good for them and good for us, meals and food. Good in general, not particular business aspect, but mainly restaurants are going to be taking advantage of this. I do understand what you're saying there. I think the enforcement aspect, I kind of take issue with what's in here. I don't want the police enforcing this. I would want the person who's in charge of the valet spots enforcing it. You know what I mean? I don't want any burden on the police department or anything to do with that kind of nature. I think that if someone illegally parks in one of these valet things after hours, it should be on the valet permit owner to have the car ticketed, towed, communicate with them. Obviously, that's the best aspect is just be like, you can't park here after 5 or whatever it ends up being. But I want as little police presence in that aspect as possible. So I understand the double parking thing might require that. But, you know, I think that it is a good first rough draft that's in here, and maybe those concerns are alleviated by the police, who still may disagree with doing it in general, but they might not see those concerns, which would help you make a better decision as well as the rest of us.
Well, I think
So-
it's, like we all said, it's a great place to start, and we have no idea what's going to happen over in Eastern Gateway. Like, there's so many other places that it might be worthwhile to get something in place, even if we select not to have a specific location assigned. Do you know what I mean? So I just.
No, I think that, you know, it's the burden is on the person that would be taking these valet spots. And if we want it to be, you can't queue up here for more than 3 minutes or something, then they have to have additional staff that's going to be able to rotate these through to whatever parking lot that they are going to have to lease from. You know what I mean? So there's different ways to do it. And if they don't, then they can, it's in here about a violation before the select board, you know, and if it isn't working, then we can pull the plug on it and everything they invested, you know. So I hear it's
Work in progress.
it's good that it's a work in progress. So yeah, you bringing that up is a good aspect.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Would there be an appetite for members on the board to create a subcommittee to dig into the policy and work with the police department and then bring it back?
I think if the mindset of the police is we understand their position of wanting no, but understanding the board's position may be wanting yes. If we take it from that position where they realize that we want this to happen against their objection, what is the best way for this to be implemented that, you know, is the least burden on all of them and the most burden on the one requesting, you know, the permit. Yeah, I would be okay with something like that, but just not from an adversarial standpoint that we're not going to do it. Like,
No, I was thinking more like just 1 or 2 members that want to come in and work with town hall. We meet and go over it kind of word by word and work through the whole policy and then bring it back. So save some time here at the table is sort of what I'm thinking. And then, and then we'll have those and we'll come back with a full recommendation from the police department. We'll have some conversation with the police
I
department.
think more of a working group kind of scenario.
Yeah, I mean, we'd post it, but it would be in, you know, the burger room or something. It would be working on it. If there's an appetite for the board.
I think that's a good idea, because I can see this being a super long conversation.
Yeah.
For something this new, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the making more work for staff and us, but in this case, it's totally brand new for us. So I think spending a few months on it, several months on it, would probably be a good idea.
I think the big aspect is obviously the winter time and snow and that. So like, I don't own a restaurant, so I don't know if the valet biggest time is July 4th, but to me, I would think it's more along the colder months in wanting to just park right there and go. So I'm okay with a couple months kind of leeway like you're mentioning here.
Okay, so
But like, yeah, obviously something, because Karen brings up a good point. So those concerns have to be addressed. And if they can't be addressed, then that's the end of it.
So is it Karen and Carlo want to be on the subcommittee?
I'll do it, but see what happens on April 7th.
Whatever the appetite of the board is, I'm just
I'd
making
be
some
gladly
suggestions to
volunteer.
try and save some time.
I'll gladly volunteer because I'm in favor of this, but
I think we can vote on who it is after the fact kind of thing and just see. But I mean, I would obviously be okay with you two being on it. You know what I mean? Because you live over there, you know the area and Carlo's business aspect, and
He also lives downtown.
Annie lives downtown. Yes. So I'm good with that.
Okay, we'll set something up.
Yeah.
TBD.
Okay.
Any other questions before I open it to the public? No. Anyone in the room? No. Online, Maddie? I don't see
Nobody
anybody.
online.
Okie dokie. All right, so we will move on to 9:40, vote to reappoint town accountant.
So moved.
I was going to say, do you have a motion, Karen Rose Gillis? But I guess, Did you have anything prepared for this, Jane? I
We
mean.
can still discuss it, I just wanted the motion.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
This is a routine motion for the
It
folks at
is.
home. This is a routine appointment that the select board reappoints the town accountant annually, correct? Our chief financial officer, Sharon Engstrom, I'm getting punchy because it's late. Sharon Engstrom is also our town accountant, and the select board has the privilege and the responsibility of reappointing her annually.
Yes. Anybody on the board have anything?
Do you want me to make the motion?
Yeah, just go with the motion.
Move to appoint Sharon Engstrom as town accountant for a term July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone from the public, online?
Karen has a hand up.
Karen?
Yeah. Does Sharon wish to be reappointed?
She does. Thank you for the question. She sure does, yes.
Okay, appreciate all
That
her
was loud,
efforts.
sorry.
Perfect.
Want to make sure.
Who seconded it? Melissa?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All those in favor? 5-0.
Nice.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
All you do.
All right. Discuss 25-26 Select Board accomplishments, page 131 in the packet. So going based off the same kind of community spotlight thing that Melissa and I had introduced this year, I thought that in the grand scheme of things, yes, I hear public feedback that the select board should be focusing on town business and this, and at some points, I believe that's warranted. But at other points, like this is a list that I briefly put together of, what this board has managed to accomplish this year, and putting it together was a trip down memory lane, you know what I mean, for the various things that we did here. So it's not inclusive of liquor licenses and all the other day-to-day typical kind of things. It was more of the, I don't want to say differing kind of things, because the majority of these were all unanimous 5-0 kind of votes, but it's more of knowing, the list that's in here that, I'll just start briefly, that, we incorporated the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of every meeting. We've allowed more public comment opportunities than previous select boards. And that's not a knock to other select boards, but you saw how tonight it worked, and it's beneficial when it works, in theory, the way that it's supposed to be, with other members of the public weighing in on RECAL and not having that done at 7 o'clock. Adding motions to the packet in advance, which I could take my own advice. Introduce, like I said, the community spotlight. Like, I really hope that these kind of things are carried over for future chairs doing this, because Jane and Matt highlighting all the highlights in our community at every one of these meetings, taking a page out of the school committee's book, has been phenomenal. Dandelions, I've seen the 25-year thing online that Joe had mentioned, but now Jane mentioned it and other people do. Like, these are the kind of things that we should be highlighting in here, which dovetails to Last Corner's 50 years, celebrating them. Like, that was an incredible time that we had. We added the brunch liquor times to the warrant. That's up for discussion. So kind of adopting that kind of language, so then the future select board can actually vote on those times to, give other business owners, that early start on, I believe it's Sundays. We approved the new 3-year RCTV contract, which is great. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I've seen a lot of social media posting lately by RCTV, all announcing, the select board meetings and candidate forums and all this on their Facebook page. They've posted more times in the last couple months than, in previous years combined. So it's good to see that the outreach is already happening there. The hockey games were covered by parent volunteers, I believe, but they had a score bug thing there, keeping scores of the game. It's fantastic. We approved a new 5-year trash contract, which was, was supposed to be one vendor kind of thing. We ended up going a different route. We hashed it all out. It was one of the better meetings that I've been a part of, and it shows I think the harmony of what the select board should be in kind of navigating things that we typically, may or may not agree on. We approved the letter that was sent to the state regarding the audit. I had no idea that this would take off like wildfire, that all of a sudden, Melissa's recommendation of bringing this forward has now championed other communities to start seeing about doing the same. So Joe Dandelions, his mother, I believe, is on the select board in Wilmington. They were bringing it up. I saw Wakefield is going to be bringing it up. And as I said, it just takes one person to do something and perhaps something changes. And perhaps not. But unless you do it, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we did it and it was, another unanimous vote. And it's good to see that these are the kind of things that we're focusing on. We celebrated numerous businesses coming to Reading, which is obviously incredible, including Trader Joe's. Virginia's was a fantastic time that we all went to. De Blasi's isn't open yet. Toscana Forno, I think, is next month. Champions Indoor Golf is already open. Dion's Fine Wines is inside of Trader Joe's when that opens. We approved Chief Rick Nelson as the next fire chief, which was phenomenal to see, Rick taking over that position for Chief Burns. For the first time since I've been here, we kept the water rates flat and sewer went down 1%, which is, something that should be celebrated by this board, taking place in that. We approved Pride Month, Italian Heritage Month, Arbor Day, DPW Week, Juneteenth, CPAC Awareness Month, Overdose Awareness Day, and Human Rights proclamations. A lot of those were first-time ones brought to the select board. We dedicated the archive room to Virginia Blodgett, which was obviously, she's an incredible asset to this town. And it's good that we were able to go ahead and do that for her. We approved the fire department permit and ambulance fees. So redoing all that with Chief Rick Nelson, multiple meetings that he came in here. So this way here, those revenues can kind of increase here for the town without a burden on the residents. We successfully supported the Turn Back Track Committee, the residents in their efforts against the MBTA. Nobody would have thought that that kind of upswell and support that they did would result in the way that it did. But obviously, like I said, all it takes is one person. This is a group of people to make a difference. But once again, like when people think outcomes are prefixed and you don't have a voice in whatever, Reading is continuously proving that narrative incorrectly. And it was the same with MBTA communities, and it'll be same for the next couple items in the future that arise here. Just don't stop fighting for something. We updated the select board policies on social media and cell phone use. We participated in a successful select board retreat with Jeff Nutting for the first time in a couple of years. Jeff was fantastic. I believe we're going to use him again, Jane, for the next retreat. So that's something, obviously, for us to celebrate as well. And I put in many more. I was going to put 2 items on there at the end of that, but they weren't already done, which is that we successfully appointed Jane Wellman as the next town manager of Reading. And that's something that this board did, the 5 of us, and, we're going to see where that takes us. And then finally, I wanted to point out for the first time since I've been on the board, that the select board has successfully not had an open meeting law violation filed against it for as long as I've been chair up here on the board. So to toot my own horn on that, but I hear comments and concerns about things being violated, and I waited to the last meeting to bring this up, that not to jinx myself, we got nothing, which is not something to celebrate. Yay, you didn't break the law or you didn't break this, but still, like, listen, keep the streak going, whomever is the next chair. Just keep following the rules the way that's supposed to be, have as much info in packets as you can, and, I'm going to enjoy my time off after this when a new chair is elected, and I will let you know I am not being chair, vice chair, or secretary. I am going to be relieved to be done with this.
That remains to be seen, so.
Yes, well, thank you. But no, I've really appreciated everybody's up here's time, commitment, effort, and energy. It takes a lot to do this position. That's why nobody really runs for it. And each and every one of you has done, you've contributed your own roles. I don't have to name them, but I really do appreciate, and I know the town does as well. It's never said enough. So I'm just thanking you all for, this time, and we'll see where the next term takes us with everyone else. So unless anyone had any other accomplishments that I might have missed in there, that's briefly what we accomplished here as a board.
Well, thanks for putting it together.
Yeah, it's nice to go down memory lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that, sometimes the select board accomplishments sometimes are overlooked because, why should we do this? But I think this is something that every year, there's a lot of good stuff that we did up here on the board. And it'd be easier for me to say, let's just focus on that in the future while simultaneously doing other things. I understand that. But we should be proud of what we've done. So that's what I got. Anybody else want to comment on select board accomplishments from the public? Anyone online, Maddie? All
I don't
good?
see any hands raised.
Fantastic. Liaison reports. Karen Rose-Gillis.
Woohoo! Gotta find it. It's not very long today. 311 Finance Committee. I believe we were all there, so I'm not going to say much about that. On March 17th, I attended the webinar that our infamous Jane was a member of, the MMA Lunchtime Numbers to Narrative, and it was fantastic. I learned a lot, really good presentations. Doug Lyons was there, who was my son's principal, who I love, and it was really nice to hear his take on the school side. Really looking forward to seeing the videos that she did. It really made it very visual on how you can present your population budgets and where all the money goes and how much is left over after you're done paying salaries. It was really, really good. I attended the forum for the select board. There was some really nice questions asked of the candidates. I attended the Climate Advisory Committee presentation with Black Earth, which was great at the library. Importance of composting programs, which enables us to lower our trash costs, which is really important. The whole goal is to reduce the amount of trash you send to the dump, and great presentation from Black Earth. Talked a lot about when our landfills are going to fill up, and then it's going to be even more expensive to ship our trash to Alabama, as he says. Our trash goes very far away. And it's probably, did he say 2035? It's pretty, it's closer than you think when we're going to run out of landfill space. And so he presented a list of things that you can compost that I had no idea how much stuff you could compost if you have the pick it up. Well, and then my next thing is, please note the compost center opens on April 3rd, so you can start taking your leaves. And curbside leaf collection is going to begin in April, which is very important for me anyway. And then I have upcoming hazardous waste collection day is May 2nd. This week is metal collection week, which is kind of early this year, if you ask me, but I got my stuff out there. Electronics collection is on May 9th. These are all different ways to reduce your trash. And then we interviewed Jane last night, which was the highlight of my week so far. Thank you. And that was it. Short and sweet.
Thanks, Karen. Karen?
On the topic of composting, we have an organization, Writing Composts, and I got an update from them this week. Because the schools are still planning to roll out school-wide composting, but it didn't happen last year. I don't remember, I apologize if I said this last time, because they wanted the trash contracts to be done. I think So sorry. So anyway, they were very excited. They're getting more active than they have been. They were quiet for a little bit, but they are working on spots with RCTV to promote composting, and also with folks at the high school. And they're also considering a field trip to Black Earth's Manchester site, and they're planning a pumpkin smash for November 7th. And that's what they're up to if anybody wants to get more engaged in composting. And then, the Finance Committee, there were a number of attendees, and they did decide to increase a line item to add $25,000 for support of unified sports. So we'll be seeing that at town meeting. And I attended the Trails Committee meeting, and they were in the basement of this room, which I think is also like the break room. Yeah, they got the short straw. So I can definitely see how RECAL is gonna, give us more space that we need. There's nothing good in the fridge, we checked.
No.
But they, as usual, have a long list of trails that they're working on, and we talked about Sturgis. In fact, I think I walked by it today and I saw the beginnings of it. So there's a new trail going in, and I believe the one by Pine Ridge could be expanded, or there's some wetlands and some crossings they need to deal with. The Trails Committee always has lots of boardwalk maintenance to do, and then we all know scouts help a lot with that. But wood lumber is not inexpensive, and this is a very wet community, so that's really where their budget needs come from. And let's see, also attended the Bill Russell documentary at the library presented by the ACE Committee, and I had never seen that before, and it only very briefly referenced Reading and just kept on going, but it's a good one, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it. And then I stopped by Coffee with a Cop, which was really like coffee with most of RPD. Which was really nice because it's always lots of familiar faces, and everybody has different responsibilities. So it's good to, connect which officers are handling which responsibilities. And I think I missed Rusty. I think they were pulling away as I looked. But thank you for attending as well. And Shoniros was glad to have them there. So that was fun. That's it. Thank you.
Alyssa?
Thank you so much. I attended the FinCom meetings either in person or watched them back afterwards. So there was a lot of information in those meetings. March 19th school committee meeting. Our Reading High School Drama Club advanced to the Mass Educational Theater Guild state finals for the first time in 23 years, which I thought was a great accomplishment. They also appointed their director of finance, who has been their interim director of finance for some time, Phil Littlehales. So he will be their full-time director of finance. They also voted on 4 finalists for superintendent, although 2 of those finalists have dropped out. They had 24 applicants, and 11 were interviewed by the screening committee, and then they came down to what we have as the last 2. One of those interviews with the screening committee, I believe, was tonight, and the other one is tomorrow evening. Both of those will have been recorded and will be on RCTV to watch after the fact. But there will also be a public session that's going to happen with the full school committee on Tuesday, March 31st at 6 p.m. And that is at the high school library, and it will also be by Zoom. And then today I got to attend the legislative breakfast, which was fantastic with our delegation. Lots of great questions were asked. And that's it. Oh, and last night, the interview, of course, with Jane, which was fantastic.
Carlo?
All righty. Sorry. Put this over here. So I want to thank the Democratic Town Committee for hosting 2 forums last week, one for the school committee and one for the select board. I as well was at the legislative breakfast this morning with some multi-chamber event. I think it was Wakefield, Stoneham, and Reading. And the whole delegation, as far as state reps, were represented, and Senator Lewis was the moderator. It was a Q&A session, which was great. So they took a lot of questions that were prepared and from the audience about the state, finances, and ballot questions, so that was very informative. I had office hours this morning, and I had a great conversation with the 60-plus resident on the upcoming fees being reinstated at the Pleasant Street Center and their concerns and some ideas going forward. So I will take that offline with Jenna and Jane. I was at Coffee with the Cop for about the first hour, very well attended. Many RPD, Coalition was there, town staff, Jane was there, Comfort Dogs were there, so it was nice to go to those. And at the Recreation Committee meeting that I watched back, a lot of you may or may not know Pete Commodores, who's been the lead for Friends of Reading Rec. And he is stepping down from that role and unfortunately leaving town. So he's been here for quite some time. I met him when I coached youth soccer. So he kind of passed the torch to the next person. His name is Jake. His last name escapes me, but he's going to be the new steward along with the committee for Friends of Reading Rec, who raises money for the fireworks and other activities and the father-daughter dance and all that fun stuff. So thank you to Pete Commodores for all his service through youth soccer and Friends of Reading Rec and everything else he's done for the town. And that's it.
Thanks, Carlo. Yeah, for me, obviously, the interview with Jane was fantastic. You know, I kind of knew the way that it was going to go, and it went that way, and you should be very happy. And I don't know if you were questioning anything after the fact, but, you know, not that my opinion matters, but I don't think you need to worry. And to dovetail off Melissa's thing mentioned with the school committee, so Wendy Crocker-Roberge, her interview was today. I did attend that. The meeting was at central office on Zoom. I'm not sure if it'll be on RCTV. Hopefully it is. But I did attend that, and I will say after about 10 minutes, I felt as if I could close my eyes and she would have been here forever, kind of thing. So it's clear that she did her homework and was able to answer all the, I think about 15 questions from the community. So it was good to see that in action. I know Henry Turner is tomorrow, same time, 5:15 to 6 o'clock. And then the school committee, like you mentioned, is going to have a separate public meeting regarding that. But it's good to get a first look, and it's, they had 4 candidates, and yes, it's down to 2. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And I think that's it. So future agendas. Carlo?
I scoured it a few minutes ago, and I thought I mentioned it recently, but I don't see honoring our Eagle Scouts. And we kind of need to do that either before the school year ends or right at the end of the summer, which I don't like either because there's vacations and a lot of kids might be going to school halfway through August. So I'd love to get that on the agenda in May or June.
Okay.
We've done it before. It's great to have those 7 young people and our first female scout honored as they should be. So I'm hoping we can get that, squeeze that in before the school year gets out. And if they're seniors, they're going to be out in May. So they might start jobs. They might, who knows where they're going. So June, they'll coordinate who can come in person and who can't. But I don't want to see that done over the summer if possible.
I think if Jane can reach out offline and just find the best date that works for a majority of them and kind of bring it back up to us or me or whomever's next kind of scenario.
Try to avoid school vacation week.
Yeah, whatever.
The summer school, yeah.
Yeah.
Summer break. I might have another one, but I'll let other people go.
I didn't have any.
I think we're all good. You can go back again.
No, I mean, I was looking at everything and I think we're, Valet will have to come back to us and that's been addressed and, yeah, I think that's good. I wanted to make sure the Eagle Scout gets on there.
Yep, yeah, no, that should have been on there.
All right.
Jane, do you have anything?
Not at this time. I think I have a small list somewhere.
A small list?
No.
You have a list?
No, well, we haven't put the retreat on the agenda yet. On the future, is
Well,
it
we
on
got an
there?
email about,
You did?
I
Yeah.
thought I saw this on here. It's
Maybe
not
it
on
is.
here? Discuss
I don't know.
2026 Select Board retreats on April 14th.
We need to, yeah, the tentative date right now is May 2nd, and I
Okay.
have confirmed that time, so it comes in the middle of town meeting, but that's the best time right now. So that, and I confirmed the space and the availability of Mr. Nutting. But setting up the agenda for that,
That would be on the 14th then?
I think
Or-
that's on the, it should be on the 14th.
on
It
the
should be
14th.
after, yeah, there it is, right there. Yep, I'm sorry, yep, right after the
did
election.
everybody respond or not respond?
I have responses from everyone.
Oh, good.
So we'll see what happens after the election and if we need to make a change in the time, but at least we have some time set aside.
Perfect. Anything else for right now, or you're all good?
I'm great.
Perfect.
I'm fantastic. I hope you're all great too.
Be great if it was, under 10:30, but we'll try. So we'll move on to approving 3 sets of minutes. I had no changes to 3 sets of minutes.
I don't have any changes.
I'm good.
I'm good as well.
Karen, are you all set?
Yep.
Well, I guess we don't need to bring them up then. So Karen Rose Gillis, do you have a motion for
Do you want them all at the same time?
all at the same time, expedite?
It's the first time ever, I
Approve
think.
the meeting minutes of
Oh.
November 1st, 2025 as presented, February 24th, 2026 as presented, and March 3rd, 2026 as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Melissa. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? 5-0.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Melissa. Non-debatable. All those in favor?
5-0.
5-0. We are adjourned.